Tastemakers is brought to you with support from Missouri Pork Association and Global Foods Market.
Founded in 1855, the Puchta Winery in Hermann, Missouri is the oldest continuously family-farmed winery in the nation. Today, the Puchta family has been at the helm for 7 generations. I'm Kat Neville, and for the past 2 decades, I've been telling the story of local food. In that time, American food culture has exploded in tiny towns and big cities from coast to coast. In Tastemakers, I explore the maker movement and take you along for the journey to meet the makers who define the flavor of American cuisine. Inspired by a wine dinner that we're going to attend later in this episode, we're going to head back to my kitchen and I'm going to show you how to make fondue.
We're sitting in the original press house that was built in 1855 by my 4th great-grandpa, Puchta, who founded it and started the winery here. Our family immigrated from Germany in 1839. The town of Hermann was a German settlement in the early 1800s, predominantly known for its growing of grapes.
When the Germans started coming to the United States, they wound up in Hermann being very, very impressed with the area and the similarity and how it reminded them of the Rhineland in Germany. When they saw all the hills around Hermann and the bluffs in Hermann and along the Missouri River, they really felt that they could make that a wine-producing area.
Commercial winemaking began in Hermann, Missouri in the early 1800s, about 200 years ago. And in fact, Missouri was one of the largest and most important winemaking states in the entire country before Prohibition.
When Missouri was in its heyday, we were the 2nd largest wine-producing state in the country. And then, obviously, Prohibition came along and everything stopped. But the Puchta Winery stayed in the family all those years.
The winery was open from 1855 till Prohibition. Prohibition was very tough in Hermann area. Being German settlement, they had ripped everything out, ripped all of our vineyards out, burnt a lot of things. Throughout all of those years, from Adam on to Everett Puchta, they had a large farming operation that they did on top of the winery and the vineyards. Restarting would have probably been a huge thing why Everett didn't want to do that. You know, there's that anxiety and frustration of what had happened, and I think that kind of plagued the whole town, because even now, today, it isn't at that successful size in the industry as it once was. But it was something that, as my dad grew up on the property, visiting his grandpa, it was something that he was just passionate about, and so my grandpa and my dad reopened the winery in 1990. In the early 2000s was really when things kind of started expanding and exploding for us as well as others in the area. I got to see a lot of stuff here. I got to sit on the equipment at a very young age, get involved when the tanks were getting unloaded, putting vineyards in, taking care of vineyards. So that was why I have this passion for the wine industry. It was ingrained in me, and I enjoyed working from a young age, because for me it wasn't necessarily work, it was just growing up on a farm. It was a different farm than your traditional sense, but there was a lot of unique opportunities for me here. I'm very happy to be here in this town and live here in this town and also raise my son here. I'm home and this is where I want to be. And I think that's what a lot of people feel that live here, but also, come here to visit.
You never know what's going to happen with the next generation. Are they even interested in the winery? Parker showed more and more interest the older he got. Maybe not unlike his father's idea of destiny, and this is the legacy that the family has. And when Timmy died, almost instantly, you could see Parker's life change, and he was ready for it. His older brother Spencer was certainly becoming more of a part of it and being a huge support there too. German heritage. This is what we do.
So your dad started this 1990 with his dad. He helped create a sense of community around all the different wineries as the industry was kind of growing through the 90s and into the 2000s. So, he really played an outsized role in the industry, not just bringing a single winery back.
For sure. It's something that Dad was very passionate about, bringing people together, having a good time. It was always around food and wine.
Very, very involved with everything he could do as an individual to help the industry. He made so many friendships because he was willing to work with other wineries. It wasn't just whatever benefited Adam Puchta Winery. We all really leaned on his leadership. People like that have devoted their whole life for years to increase quality of wine. Timmy's the one that was always there, to really make it happen.
The wine industry is about bringing people together. It's about conviviality. And I think that your dad really embodied that. Cheers to your dad.
Cheers.
This winery is 168 years old, but it is in no way stuck in the past. Parker has a number of projects in the works, including putting in new vineyards.
Recently, we've planted 4.5 acres of Vidal, an acre of Verona, and then we have 3 more acres of Vignoles and 3 acres of Avant going in the next year to 2 years.
So on this side, we have netting. On this side, we do not. And the difference is pretty stark.
Yes. We are in our Norton block. This is what we use for our estate Norton, so it's very special to us. We have to save as much as we can, so what we have over here is netted, and that is to keep the birds out, the turkeys, and the deer. Here on the right, you can actually see the berries have already been picked through. These have just went through veraison and they're already in here. And then as well as all of these younger leaves here, the deer have been eaten and they're clear up to here. We put about 22,000 feet of bird netting out each year, so it's very labor intensive.
Yeah. And your dad actually planted this in 1989?
This is the original first vineyard that we had after the winery reopened in '89.
You're in the middle of a big expansion in your production facility. You're creating a new crush pad area. There's a new spot where you're going to have the bottling line. You're considering where you're going to be putting a new barrel room. And you're like engineering all of this yourself.
Yeah, it's a learning experience. You learn what you should do. And my biggest thing is we're trying to plan for the future so I don't have to reinvent the wheel later on. Learning through different processes and experiences and learning what not to do is a huge part of growing grapes, and really kind of working with other people in the industry and getting feedback. Each one of us experienced something new and something different because of being on different sites, different soils, and having other people in the industry that you can ask questions, I think is huge.
Parker may have grown up in these vineyards, but managing a vineyard is tricky business, especially here in this Midwest climate. So the Grape and Wine Institute works with vintners across the state of Missouri to ensure that they are doing their best work.
My role is to work with a lot of different growers throughout Missouri in the grape industry. I spend a lot of time on the road out working with people, going to their sites. I think I've been to every corner of the state. The Puchta Winery, it's the oldest family-named winery and vineyard location in the United States. It's going back now to its 7th generation, so it's very unique. They're at the exact location where they started, and so you go to that particular vineyard site and you see the hills and the bluffs they're growing on. Planting on these sloped areas, it's really protecting those grape crops, having that cold air when it does come in the springtime, after those grapes have already sprung forward where their new growth, it drains that cold air away from the grape plants, protecting them. It's a very unique site and location and a very unique family to have here in Missouri.
I've known Dean probably over 15 years now. He has been great to learn from. We've been sending our staff to almost every single one of the workshops up at Mizzou. The new enologist, Stefan, has been great. So it's been a huge experience to learn from what others are doing because, you know, all boats rise with the tide.
I was visiting the Puchta Winery and I was looking for some of the old established Norton that would have been planted by his first ancestor back then, and actually Parker pointed those out. Now those vines are actually located in the woods, because you can imagine over 155 years ago, trees have grown up in that original vineyard area, but some of the original vines are still present historically there on the site.
So this kind of looks like a normal forest when you're walking like on the edge of the vineyard, but it's not. This used to be a vineyard itself.
Yeah, so if you notice here to our left, we have some, I guess we'd considered wild grapevines now, but at one point in time, this would have all been a vineyard, and this is the remains of what happened to it after Prohibition when they came in and ripped these out. So these are probably vines that were able to reestablish themselves. We haven't ever noticed them fruiting, but the tops of the vines are all the way up in the treetops, so most likely the birds get to them pretty quick.
Yeah, I bet they do.
We've talked to Dean actually a few times about possibly trying to do some DNA testing on them to see what varietals they are, and then also try to maybe do some planting.
It's super cool. And there are tons of them.
There's a ton of them. In some areas, they are in trees that are 70 foot tall. They go all the way through there on the ground, so it's pretty cool.
The government thought they
ripped them out.
Yeah, got rid of everything, but the vineyards grew back.
Grape growing, it's a very risky business. Grapes are very sensitive to the environment. It's a very long process. It's 3 years to get to producing grape, and really it's the 5th year until you're in full production for that grape. So you can imagine that grape growers have a lot of time and money before they're seeing any return on their investment. You have to grow with your crop. You have to be there for them. So you have to be out in the vineyard, you have to be walking the rows, you have to be walking the borders, and you have to know what they're doing all the time. No different than a small child. So there really is no downtime in the vineyard. There's always something to do.
It's very tough to grow here, but the reward when things do go your way is making an award-winning wine and getting to share it with others, and the joy that it brings them is why we do it.
One of Parker's favorite things is when food and wine intersect, and so today we are at a sold-out farm-to-table dinner.
Welcome. Welcome to Puchta Winery. My name is Parker Puchta. I'm 7th generation president here at the winery. I wanted to welcome you to our first farm-to-table dinner. This was an idea put on by our chef Alex here. This is to raise money for the local food pantry. Hope you guys enjoy everything. Let us know, and thank you.
On your tables right now is Vidal Blanc. We do have more wine in the wine tent if anybody needs any.
We have such a large variety of flavor options and tastes in our wines to choose from. The harder part is actually picking which ones to start with. But me and Parker collaborate really well in tasting the menu, tasting the items we're gonna make, checking to see which wines go well with what. And he lets the wines speak what they really want to be, same as our farmers are doing. And it's just about being able to deliver the absolute best food that we can. You get inspiration from everything: the view of the vineyards, the smell of the flowers, the taste of the wines. Just driving out here alone is inspiration, with all the farms and everything else that you go through that kind of just add into the thoughts that go into creating the dishes we do here. It's a very relaxed atmosphere to be in, and it's really about having fun and just providing a great experience, doing good food, having great wine, and having that communion with everyone else.
One of the very important things that we do here at the winery is use as much local products as we can, and one of those is Hemi Brothers cheese. We've been using their products, I couldn't even tell you how many years. We love their stuff. We've toured their facility. It's beautiful, raising the cattle, farming, and then producing amazing cheese. And we really incorporate a lot of their products, whether it's in the sales room, on our charcuterie boards, or I would say almost every dinner or a few wine trails a year has some type of their product in.
My family started dairy farming in 1996. We kind of went into value added. It seemed like a better idea than going out and milking 500, 1,000 cows. Just milk less cows and make better quality product for, local people in Missouri. So back in 2016, we started producing cheese, and first thing we did was come to Hermann, Missouri to start selling our cheese. And Puchta was one of the first ones to start carrying it. I don't get off the farm that much, so it's nice to come here and see everybody else enjoying an atmosphere like this. And we had good music playing. We had the other farmers here I was able to build connections with. Yeah, it's just a good time.
Why does it actually matter for a small family-owned winery to be partnering with farmers and makers like Hemi Brothers?
I think for me and for the businesses, we all need the community. It's a community involvement thing. We're also looking at it from a health perspective. We know that, farmers and especially local small community farmers, they really take pride in producing a higher quality product. Mm-hmm. And so do we with our wine. So having that relationship with those farmers and being able to showcase their product, I'd rather do that than some, corporation or something that doesn't have the buy-in from the community. So it all starts with your farmers. It starts with your growers out in the vineyard or out in the fields that gives you that end product. Why not make the best food that we can make? I mean, we can mess it up in the kitchen or in the winemaking, but
you
we try
wouldn't
not
mess
to.
it up.
No.
So much is driven by values that are not focused on family and connection and community. And what you're building here, it all rotates around the idea of, continuing on the love of this place and this land and creating the product and creating the connections through what you're making.
When you get to create something and see the smile, it makes it all worth it.
Thank you for having us.
I appreciate it. Cheers.
Cheers to you.
No, we really appreciate this. I hope everybody enjoyed it. It was great to raise some money for the Hermann Food Pantry. I hope you guys met some, new people and create that relationship, because that's what we do. We like to eat food and drink wine and share in fun times. So thank you guys for coming out. Thank you. And being the seventh generation, it's just it's a very unique, it doesn't happen hardly at all, ever. I think by the third generation, they usually sell the business off or it doesn't survive. And we've survived through a lot of things, so it's always kind of been a part of me. It's something that's very important to me for our family legacy, but also I want to make a huge impact on the families of our employees and the people that come here. And we have employees that have been here for 20 years, but then we also have their kids working for us now. And I want to start building the opportunities for them to have their own careers. Whether they stay here or they go off to work somewhere else, I want to help facilitate that and let them grow here with their families, because, I'm very proud of what Dad created and what we've been able to build. But also, without our people, we wouldn't be where we are now. And I think it's a very unique opportunity for kids to see their parents saying, hey, they created this as well. And so I just want to be able to do that for the next generation.
So after chatting with the folks from Hemi Brothers, I knew that I had to figure out a recipe that would combine wine and cheese. And of course, that is fondue. So what I have here is I've already shredded up Gruyere, Emmentaler, and then also some sharp cheddar. And I'm going to kind of coat this in a little bit of cornstarch, and then I'm gonna head over to the stove. So the first step in making a traditional fondue is to reduce a couple of cups of wine. And I've chosen a Chardonnay, and this is a hybrid grape that grows really well across kind of the Midwest wine regions, including where I'm based here in Missouri. And Chardonnay, as the name implies, is a hybrid grape with Chardonnay as one of its parents. So it has that same kind of a flavor, and it's not too tart, which is really important because we're going to be reducing the wine. And if it is too tart, it'll just enhance that acidity, and that's not what you want for fondue. So I have a couple of cups of wine here. And a couple of smashed garlic cloves. Now I'm gonna turn this on high, let it come to a boil, and then let it reduce. The wine is reduced by half, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn this down to low and take out the garlic. Now, all you do is start adding in your cheese one handful at a time over low heat. Let it melt in until it gets gorgeous and creamy. Now, I'm just gonna top this with some fresh nutmeg and a little bit of pepper. Not everybody has a fondue set. You can easily use a bowl as long as your hungry guests devour that cheese sauce right away. Look at those strings. I mean, I can't wait to get into this. And that's it. I mean, it is such a simple recipe with very complex flavors, and it makes a wonderful use of wine and obviously really a fantastic array of cheeses. Now, there are so many things that you can serve with fondue. I've chosen broccoli, peppers, cornichon, but you can also do things like salami cubes and bread. Roasted potatoes are a classic. And I am pairing my fondue with the same wine that I use. And again, this is a Chardonnay. It is delicious. So if you're looking for the recipe, all the details are on our website. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Connect with us online at wearetastemakers.com or through social media on these handles.
Tastemakers is brought to you with support from Missouri Pork Association and Global Foods Market.